Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hang out. I don't really have a plan for our time together. I just felt like it could be healthy, beneficial for all of us to just get together and talk about Harry and sort of process what I know is a loss for many of you. I know some of you were personally friends with him. And so I thought maybe you can share some stories, some memories of him. I did come equipped with a couple of tricks that I can show you, a couple of my favorite little Harry Lorayne gems that I could show you. Some of them won't be new to you, but maybe for some of you they will be. And so I thought I can show you a trick. And if you have a trick of Harry's that you particularly enjoy, I'd love to see you share that with us. And so, I'll say that this Harry's passing wasn't exactly a shock to me. I had called Harry about 2 weeks ago because I hadn't seen him really logging on. Somebody had mentioned something about memory on the forum, and Harry didn't reply. And I thought, oh shoot, something's wrong here. If Harry's not jumping in there to tell somebody that they got to take their head out their butt. So I kind of felt like something was not right. And it was interesting because the same day, Charlene had said, I was just thinking about Harry too. And so then I contacted him. He didn't reply. And so I messaged Elizabeth to see if everything was okay. And she said, oh, he's been in the hospital for a week. And so I thought, oh, crap. And so unfortunately, it wasn't exactly a surprise. I can't really share the nature of what happened. I'm aware of the details leading up to him getting in the hospital, but I told Elizabeth I'm going to leave those details for her to share if she or Bobby desire. It's not my place. But again, I'll say that it wasn't a surprise to me. I was able to put together a little video of some of Harry's friends essentially wishing him well, but kind of in a way it was saying goodbye. I had Jean-Jacques Sanver, David Regal, Mike Breger. Who else is escaping me? Who else was on there? Michael, do you remember? Paul Gordon. Sorry. Anyway, it was just a really meaningful video of some of his friends saying how much they loved him and appreciated him. And so I actually don't know if he was able to see that video before he finally passed away. He was in that hospice care there near the end. I'm hoping he did, but I didn't really want to bother asking Elizabeth about that minor detail. It wasn't exactly all that important. I mean, it was important for me that Harry had some friends say goodbye. But so anyhow, that's a little bit of some of the details leading up to Harry's passing. And so, Mike, how about pull you into this, Mike Breger? Just share a little bit about your experience with Harry. I know you had some correspondence back and forth with him.
We've only became good friends in the last probably 3 years. I guess it was right around the time the pandemic started. That Rudy, you brokered the connection, and I do appreciate it. And Harry and I about once a month, every other month or so, got on the phone and chatted for a while. The weird thing is that I feel like I've known the guy forever. It's sort of like a sense that he's been like good old Uncle Harry, and he's been around. And you listen to his voice in general conversation, and you have to smile and you have to laugh because it's the same Harry voice that you hear on the videos. I know, Rudy, you feel the same. I told Harry a story. I'll share it with you guys. So probably the first real magic book I got was at Cannon's 1,000 years ago. It's close-up card magic. And I couldn't do most of the stuff in there. Stuff that I could do, I enjoyed doing. And I was determined I got at the beginning of the summer, and I was determined during the summer I was going to learn to do the stuff that I couldn't do offhand. So I was going to summer camp, and I had packed up the book with me to go to summer camp. Now, I was just getting over stomach flu as summer camp was approaching. And I remember Mom packing in my my summer camp trunk, my overnight trunk, a bottle of kaopectate, just in case, just in case. And kaopectate, they were plastic bottles, but the caps were these very fragile plastic caps. And during the course of moving the trunk to summer camp, the cap of the kaopectate bottle broke. Kaopectate was this, it's this thick, milky, chalky white liquid, and that crap got everywhere. On the clothes, pretty easy to wash out, but worse off, it got all over Close-Up Card Magic.
Oh,
and
no.
And ironically, I went and I got another copy of the book. I still have the original one, and I every time I look at it, I laugh at what happened. So I told Harry the story, and he laughed. And he didn't say to me, "Well, I hope you felt better. I hope it didn't ruin your clothes." Harry being Harry, he said to me, "Well, I hope you bought another copy."
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I did, Harry.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah, the other thing in the book, Rudy, that I'll think about mentioning, again, this is pure Harry, is in the last chapter of Close-Up Card Magic deals with his version of the Curry turnover change. I couldn't do it then. I can't do it now. I have tried a million. It's just one of those things I just can't do. And I remember telling Harry about it. And every time I talked to Harry, he would say to me, "Well, did you master the turnover change yet?" I said, "Harry, I'm trying. He says, "Well, you just have a mental block. You just have to get over with the thick New York accent. You just have to get over the thick mental block that you have." So it was sort of like our signature sign off saying, "Goodbye, Harry. Have a great week. I love you. And by the way, I still can't do the turnover change."
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Mike.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And by the way, Rudy, if you recall, when we had on Harry's 95th birthday that we did online, I had put together like 10 minutes of Harry's favorite tricks. I think we only got, I don't know that did we get all the way through? Yeah, we got all the way through. It's this 10-minute short video. I have that queued up if folks are interested, and rather than just seeing more card tricks, I think it might be fun to see Harry. So let other people talk, and if we want to queue it up at any point, just let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Hey, David, you mentioned that I'm talking about David Reich, I believe. Is that how you say your name?
Right. Close enough.
Right. Sorry about that. You got to visit Harry over in Newburyport. I was able to that too. Cute little town. What did you guys end up doing while you were there with him?
So what happened was, I put it in the chat, but I mean, I grew up hanging out at Tannen's pretty much every Saturday, watching him for freaking ages, and bought a lot of his stuff, performed a lot of his stuff. And some number of years later, I needed to move to Boston. And I don't remember, it might have even been you. Somebody had mentioned that Harry, they finally wrestled him out of Jane Street and Elizabeth moved his butt to Newburyport. And I said, "Oh my God, that's 45 minutes from here." So so I contacted him through email, and we started chatting about, just a bunch of stuff through email. And I said, "I would love to take you out to lunch, man." And he goes, "I would love that too." So, God, I don't even remember how many years ago it was. It must have been 6-ish years ago the first time, 6 or 7 years ago. And, he said, "Come on over, here's my address." And we hung out for about an hour at the house. And, his walking was not all that good. Newburyport's a nice, small little town. There's a bunch of little pubs. And we kept going to this one place. It's the the Whale something or other. That's about 2 blocks down and around the corner from where he was living in Newburyport. And we were just chatting about a lot of the old crowd, Tony and Irv and Frank Garcia, and and a lot of the things about the evolution of Tannen's and what he's been up to, and just talking about his writing, and just the conversations just meandered through everything from his writing. And when I first started seeing him, it was probably around 1973 or 74 when I was about no, maybe a little bit later, 75 or 70. Well, I was about 12 or 13. And at that point, all there were books. That's all you had were people and books to learn from. And then then the VHSs and the DVDs and then the YouTube and the exposure. So we started talking about a lot of the exposure and what he thought about it. you know, and the way people are learning and becoming the different people that they see. I mean, look, you watch Bill Malone's videos enough, you start picking up some of his mannerisms, or Gregory Wilson, or
Mhm.
you know, even Harry stuff. You know, you start picking up some of their mannerisms subconsciously that you never did when you had the books. Because you had the books, you learned something, you had to make it yours. So
Right.
those were the kind of conversations we had, which were just an absolute blast.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
So
and he-
that's why I sounded like Regis Philbin doing card tricks. Okay.
Yeah, right. That's funny. Mike Powers, I know you had the opportunity, you posted a video.
There you go, Matt, the thirsty well, that was it.
Thirsty Whale. Yeah, I don't remember if that's where we went. Did you have oysters? Is it a place where they have oysters and stuff like that? Because I went to
I'm pretty sure they do. We had fish sandwiches and Guinness, but
yeah, I don't remember where I went with him to eat, but it was just a couple of blocks up. I was just wondering if maybe it was the same place because he recommended it. But anyway, well, awesome. How cool you got to spend some time with him like that. Great. Well, thanks for sharing that, David. Appreciate it very much. I was saying about Mike Powers. I know you posted recently a video of Harry's. I didn't get a chance to look at it. Was it the same one where he did What a Mess?
It's him at Fechter's in 1991. He was
Yeah,
the
that's
guest.
where he did What a Mess.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And he's doing a bunch of stuff right off the bat. He's doing the behind the hands force, and you got a good shot at what it looks like from.
Really?
Yeah, because he's turned in right towards the camera almost.
Yeah, it was
And
great.
it's, you know, so it has that, you know, behind my back. What, you know, how could it be a force? thing?
Sweet. I have
You
to
know,
go
he
check
just
that out.
nails it. You know, every time I would be worried, like, uh-oh, you know.
And he's doing the magazine test in there too, which is brilliant.
Yeah, that's like, I think it's a 20-minute thing on that.
It's beautiful. It's one of my
wonderful.
favorites. I'm so
And
glad
it's
that was
such
captured.
that dynamic performing style of his, you know, like he's just a boom, 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 just cranking it out and he just owns the room from the moment he walks on stage. And that was, you know, anybody that's seen him has seen that because he always is that way, right?
well,
Yeah.
the cool thing about when he did a lot of his performing, and if you see a lot of it in the videos, you know, if you look at Danny D'Ortiz, you know, he's saying, oh, look, we just do this. But Harry was kind of like, you never see him coming. He just comes in, he's just a guy with a deck of cards, and he just makes it look so casual and just like, oh yeah. Oh, this dropped. But you know, he's just, you know, it's not as clumsy as Columbo, but you never see him come because he's just this guy with some cards who's futzing around, and all of a sudden stuff starts happening.
You're right. His overhand shuffles, you know, they just
Yep.
look like an amateur. It's just, I don't know, just mix these cards
Yeah.
up. You really believe that they're mixed, but it was, you know, some kind of a jog shuffle. And
Mhm.
but you're right. You just take it like, okay, this guy's got some cards, but he also proves that card tricks are entertaining.
Yes.
Certainly in the right hands. I think they're inherently entertaining anyway, even if you're not a dynamo like Harry. But
And even some of his procedural stuff, you know, because looking back and reading some of the tricks, you know, they're very some of them are very
Yeah,
procedural.
right. Yeah.
And a lot of people say, oh yeah, there's too much procedure and there's too much this, but for some reason he made it seem like it wasn't a procedure. He just made it seem like it's, now we're going to do this, and there you go.
He would shotgun through it in 2 minutes. It was amazing.
Yeah.
That 4F video is a perfect example of that. It's essentially 10 minutes of him arranging the cards, but it's the most entertaining 10 minutes
Yes.
you could ever hope for.
Oh, hell yeah, it is. It's
Oh,
great.
that was a revelation for me. And I don't remember where it was or when it was, when he said, you know, just arrange the cards right in front of their face.
Yeah.
He could do it because he was, you know, he could talk while he was doing it, which is one skill that's hard to master. Most of us look like we're thinking when we do that, and he just looks like, you know, I'm just doing something. Don't pay any attention to this,
Yeah.
and you just go.
And then
Just listen.
describing pages in a magazine that people
Yeah.
would shout.
Right. Yeah, I had mentioned it to y'all on a previous session where I finally worked through What a Mess to the point where I can do it and do it
Awesome.
decently. But the challenge that I still have though is doing that procedure while talking. And Harry, as you watch the video of him performing that, he's talking, he's reading off pages that he's memorized from that Time magazine, and it's so engaging and entertaining. And I just think to myself, I don't know that anybody can really do that effect like Harry does. It
No.
looks amazing. And then I do it, and I don't know. It's just, I'm not sure about it yet just yet, but it goes to show Harry had a real fantastic way of engaging an audience while still he's doing some work, but he just talks
there's so
over it.
much,
It's
and
amazing.
there's so much content. I mean, you know, I go back and, you know, everybody's putting out new stuff. All right. And I've got the 4 volumes of Apocalypse. I got a bunch of, I don't have all of his books, but I got a bunch of his books. And every time something jogs my memory up, I go back and I'm like, oh my God, when did I stop doing that? I didn't consciously stop. I got to start doing this again. And, you know, you start pulling out some, I pulled out I forgot all about the lazy man's card trick, and I pulled it out last night. My girlfriend comes over and she's like, what the hell did I just,
It's great.
Wow.
you know,
Wow.
just, there's just so, he just had so much material that he just shared with everyone. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah. Mike Powers, what's do you have any particular memories that you find stand out in your interaction with Harry?
I've got a couple. I didn't, Harry wouldn't know my name. He wouldn't know me to look at me. I never talked to him I may have talked to him on the phone about his Apocalypse subscription or something one time. But I met him in 1978, I think it was. I've got Quantum Leaps in front of me over here. He did a lecture near Magic Incorporated. So you kind of started there, walked down a couple blocks, and there was a little church down there. I think there must have been 100 people at this lecture. It was really big. I was just getting into magic at that point. Had bought Close Up Card Magic was one of my first books, like as many of us have that story. But the lecture went for 4 hours.
Wow.
And it was 100% that kind of energy that you saw in that Vector's video. That's him. And he didn't refer to any notes. He just kept going to the next trick. And halfway through, after 2 hours, he took a break to sell some stuff. There was a lineup. I got in the line with my checkbook and got a subscription to Apocalypse and Quantum Leaps. And I think Quantum Leaps may have been an advanced, you know, you paid for it now and then got it later. I can't remember. I don't remember if I took it home, but it was 78, 79 in that time period. And I remember, you know, getting in line so excited to get some of this stuff because the tricks were so awesome. And he was such a great salesman, because what I did have an experience on the way home back to Indiana. He had done a trick that I was mulling around in my head. Everything seemed like a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. And then after the lecture, I'm thinking, I don't know about that one. And I realized what a salesman this guy was. He sold me on a trick that I later thought was like a 6, that it was a 10. He could take any trick that we would think of as kind of mediocre, and you would think it's the best trick you've ever seen. And that was really his forte. A lot of people disagree with me on this particular trick. I won't even say what it was because I think I'll get a lot of heat from people. No, that's the best trick ever. But it was that noticing that he could take any trick and make it a 10. And that was incredible about him. The only interaction I had with him on the Magician's Forum was a couple of times I posted something about clocking the deck, and he was going to clock throwing out 10s. And I said, you know, Harry, there's a 50% chance that when you get to the end, you have an ambiguity half the time. And you have to go back through it to see if it's a jack or an ace or something like that.
Yep.
And he would have none of that. He would just say, no, I never have to go back. I always just know. He didn't quite.
You could always get in a nice argument about the epitome location. Yes.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, I'll stay. I'm sticking with my guns on that one. It does sound wacky to go mod 13 because it sounds difficult. But anyway, I'm not going to try to sell that. But it was just a funny thing. I would post it and go, you know, you can eliminate that. It's really not that hard to do. Harry, you could do it mod 13 just as fast as mod 10 and have no ambiguity. No, I never have a problem. It's just, you know, you can hear him. When you read his posts, his voice jumps out at you.
Oh yeah, I read everything in his voice. Yeah,
you know? And Mike, you would think that being a physicist, you know, the ambiguity, like the uncertainty principle, getting to the end. I mean, that's something that's you know, right in your alley.
I had the same thing with him and I don't remember the details. I'm sorry, but in his version of Stop. And I started, we went back and forth with like 20 emails about this because of, and I'm trying to remember right, because it's been so long ago, but it was just the whole point of the estimation and doing a count to reverse the order of the cards. But if you didn't do a particular step, you didn't have to do that count, because reversing the order of the cards just seemed like it was an extra thing that made it easier for you, that a spectator might say, why the heck are you doing something like this? And, you know, and yes, and his inimitable style said, well, I never had anybody with a problem with that. I never had this. And I said, well, that's cool. It's simpler. It's a one less step for me, and my brain is just doing that. And I'm like, feel free, if you ever republish this somewhere, to put this as a, you know, in one of your afterthoughts.
Well, I'm curious, David, can you explain what do you mean? What is it that you adjusted in the handling?
I wish I could off the top of my head, and I've got it in the archives of my emails, but all I can really remember was, you know, you do an estimation, and then you have to flip the, you know, do something with the cards where you're reversing the order of the cards, so the card is where you want it to. So when you yell out stop to the spectator, it's where you want. But if you didn't do the reversal, you have to do a little bit different math in your head. Okay. And I just felt that extra step to reverse it, to make it easier for the performer, just added an extra step that didn't necessarily need to be there.
Gotcha.
And it was just like, why am I dealing out these cards? For no apparent purpose. It wasn't like I was showing how many they had. It wasn't that I was showing them that they were all different or anything like that. There was no apparent purpose for it. And I just said, you know, and I said, look, who am I to tell you how to do this stuff? But to me, we're doing something that didn't have a motivation. And I think it was right after I saw a Garrett Thomas lecture, who said, everything you got to do is got to have a reason. So I started second guessing everything I did that had to have a reason. And why was I doing that, other than to reverse the order of the cards to make my job easier? And that's why I brought it up. Rudy, I'll be happy to send you the email thread in an email. I'll dig it out.
I'd love that, because, you know, I remember trying I couldn't get that stop trick to work very often. I don't know, I was probably screwing something up. And then I saw on the Essential Harry Lorayne DVD, Steve Cohen performed it. And I'm like, well, dang, that's freaking awesome. I need to do that. So I'd love any tips that you have.
I actually stopped doing that when I finally got into memdeck work. And I just took a very simple one that Luke Germain did, called Think Stop. And it was just an incredibly simple effect. And if you got a memdeck, you know, if you got a stack, you're all set, and it's very easy, real fast, real quick, and there was no procedure to it. But I'll go back and look at that stuff and send it to you. If you want to share it out, I'll be happy to.
That'd be awesome.
Share that discussion thread with you.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you, David. Awesome. Did you have any other thoughts? I'm sorry, Michael.
I think that's about it, other than yeah, that's it. It was just very positive memories of interacting with Harry, and just being such a, you know, that awesome performing style that I was trying to get across. Everybody that's seen it knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate you sharing that with us. You know, just kind of this to the point that David's making about procedure, and because I can tend to overthink things too. Like you're talking about, like, well, why are you doing that? And I'm going to show you. I'm not going to go through the whole performing the effect for you. I'll show it to you, teach it to you. It's in what the hell is it in? Well, it's in the Essential Harry Lorayne, but I think it's in the Afterthoughts, this particular handling. And so for some of you, it'll be familiar. So I'll do this.
What's it called? What's it called that you're
called doing? Really?
Oh,
he used to call it Not Really, but
I love that. I do that effect all the time. I love it. I love that.
Great. So maybe some of you haven't seen it, but let me see here. All right. So essentially, you're gonna push off some cards and put them on the table. It's almost like kind of like a triumph effect, because I'm going to turn some of these face up and further mix these, as you can see. And then you can have these cut as many times as you want. Okay. And then now you have, actually, this is a little touch that Mike Powers shared with me, because this uses the turnover and cut principle, where you say, hey, do you want me to turn 2 cards over or 4? And then you cut the cards. But what Mike Powers says, you can just do this at the table, say, you know, stay or flip, and they get to determine what you do. So stay or flip, doesn't matter. I won't bore you. Stay or flip, flip, stay and flip and stay. All right. Now, this is the part that was kind of procedural that I was like, well, what justifies this? You're just going to now essentially deal these back and forth. And then they have this illusion of choice saying, which pile do you want me to turn over, the left one or the right one? They say the left one. All right, we do that. And now when you spread these cards, you have the royal flush that is face up out of all that mixing, which is really, I've done this for my buddy's law office for their Christmas party. And man, I was doing the torn and restored card and all these things. This this one lawyer kept saying, hey, show this guy, show this gal. Wow, man, I was tearing cards up and they're put together. But this, what could appear to be procedural, and there's no justification really as to why do you now turn over one pile. For me, it's just the mixing procedure. But let me just teach this to you really quick, and then I will take any comments or questions on it. And I do appreciate Mike sharing this little bit here with me, because I think it helps with the deception. First of all, I don't know if you know, I started with what is this utility mixer, which can be used with the small packet, maybe even better, but you're doing this. Here is utility mixer. It's taught in his Jaw Droppers 2. This way of handling it is something that I saw Joshua J show. He had a Instagram thing where he was teaching folks, but essentially what you're doing, it doesn't make sense if you really look at it when it's broke down and it's slowed down. You're pushing over a pile of cards, taking these, putting them on top for just a moment, then bringing them back, taking them out and putting that back on again. That doesn't look very deceptive that way, right? I'll do it again slow. These go on top, this goes on top, and this goes back. I'll turn one card over this way. So this pile out jog this way, and then you come back and take them and put that on again. That's not all that deceptive. What Joshua J did was he added this motion and then a pulling out of the cards. Let me show you. So I'll do it again this way, this way. So this way. Looks a little bit more deceptive, don't you think? Okay.
Yeah.
So again, he's same thing, but he's doing this action. This, taking, this. I'll do it slow. Okay. Out jog this pile, putting it on top. And then when you come back to take this pile back to this, you're going to strip out this way with this towards you action. All right. So again, and then that goes on top. So done this way. Okay. And that really looks sloppy. So again, here. Utility mixer. That's a really good move. I think it's now, I have to admit, when I first read it, I liked it. I really did. I thought I liked it, but I didn't think it was all that deceptive for the reason I just showed you. If somebody's looking going, well, you're just putting the card right back on. When I saw Josh J do this, then I thought it got better. Here's another added thing that Josh did. He says, you can also do this to the table. Watch. Table. Right? Again, he's just taking, I'll do it slow. He's doing the same thing. Take it, out jogged, strip out, table these face up. Now do the utility mixer again. That's pretty good, right?
Wrist turning is what sells everything. The wrist turning sells everything.
Yeah, the wrist turning does. And this is credit to Josh J. Good luck finding, it's on his Instagram. So you kind of have to, it's not titled, so you kind of have to search for it. But it's about 25 minutes of him unpacking this utility mixer, starting at the beginning, then breaking it down to its fundamentals. He takes 3 cards. And by the end of it, there's more to it. I won't continue. I don't want to take too much time, but if you find his video, by the end of this, it doesn't even really look like the original utility mixer. And it's just really great. Harry watched the video and he wasn't all, he's like, why is he screwing around with the perfect thing?
Of course.
But I mean, it's really good. So anyway, I started off with this utility mixer there. So you have 5 royal flush cards on the top. So you can do the utility mixer if you want to, whatever, some false shuffle. And then you're going to push over 5 cards. So essentially push over the royal flush. And this little mnemonic, you lead with the left. Okay, so lead with your left. Oh, let me let in Greg here. Okay, so after having pushed over the royal flush into my right hand, leading with the left, you're going to deal cards this way. Left, and the right card on top of it. A royal flush card goes on top each time. Now push over 5 and then turn these face up. Same thing, leading with the left. Lead with your left, do this. And then you can do some sort of Charlier shuffle here, or have the spectator cut. And then you do this turn over and cut, pushing over 2 or 4, push over like 4, stay or flip, doesn't really matter. Of course, you know that, stay or flip, I'll stay, flip, and then 2, I'll just stay. All right, and now you just deal these back and forth, and then again, ask the spectator which pile they want to turn over. Now, I'm mindful of where the spade cards are. So here I see an ace of spades. So just take note of that. So on the reveal, you know where the royal flush is. Spreading these cards, there you can see that you have that royal flush in spades. It's just really a fantastic effect, kind of similar to another of his called, man, what's the other one called? That's Impossible, I think. And that's in Jaw Droppers 2, and it's very similar, but there's even more procedure because you have to, I won't go through it, but there's just, trust me, there's more procedure. You have to, after having had 4 aces mixed up into a packet of 12 cards, well, I'll just show you. Is this all right? Am I?
Yeah. Well, hey, Rudy, before you continue, there's a couple other things about really, because there's a YouTube video of him performing it with Paul Gertner.
Yes.
And he uses a number of other things in the procedure, which I kind of like, and being able to mix up a number of those bits in the procedure, and I just love the way he does. So they're really mixed, right? No, not really.
Exactly.
And he just keeps going. The other thing also, and I'll share this. This is something that I started doing because, cards are a small part of what I do. I do a lot of mentalism stuff. And what I try and do is I try and mess around with people, because you're doing a royal flush. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to do is do something where I try and do a little mind reading in there, or influence control. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I just forget it never happened, which is a staple of doing mentalism. But what I'll do is I will stack the 4 queens on the bottom of the deck, the 4 sevens on the top of the deck. I will hide, probably under the, under my close-up pad, maybe the 4 aces, okay, and maybe the 4 tens somewhere else. And I'll say, okay, so the first thing I need, and I pick a spectator to work with, and I say, so every card has a value. I'm going to need the four somethings. Okay. So, we got values. We got 2s, 3s, 5s, jacks, kings, name a value. Okay. And I'm trying to get him to go to 7s or queens. I said, would it surprise you before we ever started? And I just pull the 4 sevens off the top of the deck, or the 4 queens off the bottom of the deck, or just pull those out just as a little fun kicker. And it also helps me work on my psych forcing and restricting without seeming restrictive. Then I jump into it. So that's how I pick the cards that are going to triumph out at the end.
Gotcha.
But,
yeah. And what I had just shown you wasn't originally done with the royal flush cards. Harry teaches it with the aces, and then it's just in his afterthoughts. He goes, hey, you could do this with the royal flush. So I just liked that. And this one that I had shown you, the royal flush, nobody knows about that, which is different than the other trick.
I'd never seen it with the royal flush before, so that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll show you really quick this, the other one, and why I like what I showed you better than this, even though Harry taught this in his lecture that we did. But so the spectator takes the aces, and they really get to put them, they can shuffle these as much as they want into this packet. So you have the 4 aces. It really doesn't matter where they go. Okay. Now, this is the procedure that Harry does here. You have to reverse every other card. So you do this, flip, deal, flip, deal, flip, deal, flip thing. Okay. And if you're not paying attention, you can screw that up. Trust me, I've done that. Yeah. And then you do this stay or flip business. All right. So we'll just say we've gone through that. And there. Now here, you would deal 4 piles. So the other one I like, you're just dealing 2 piles and then flip over 1. This one, you're going to go back and forth, and then you're going to flip over these piles end for end this way, this one onto this one onto this, and then
that to me is the best part. That's such a great seller, is flipping the 4 piles into each other like that. That's a great seller.
Right. So this is that's called it's called what's it called? That's Impossible, page 176 of Jaw Droppers 2. So again, this is good. I tend to do the other one that I showed you, really, and that's page 82 from Essential Harry Lorayne. So anyway, any thoughts or questions on what I just showed you?
May I make a comment? This is Newell.
Of course. Hi, Newell. Yes, of course you can.
How you do it?
Good. Thank you for asking.
A lot of that originated with Bob Hummer, quite
Absolutely.
frankly. And so there was a book that came out that I edited, by the way. It's a Juan Tamara's book. And the premise of the book was tricks I do over the radio.
Yeah.
And so the very first trick in that book is him using this principle to do oil and water.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not familiar with it, it's really quite good because the spectators have 5 reds and 5 blacks, and they're told to admit red, black, red, black, red, black, red, black. Okay. And then they go through the turn over 2 and cut it to the bottom, turn over 4, cut it to the bottom, keep cutting. And then you deal in the 2 piles, flip one over. And when you do that, it separates all the red cards from the black cards. And Tamara has used that, quite a bit. So I thought I'd just sort of throw that out as it's another approach to using that particular principle.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Harry does give full credit to Bob Hummer in that. Well, he calls it I think Hummer originally it's Cato, but Harry calls it TOAC, like the turnover.
Yeah.
No big deal. But yeah, thanks for sharing that, Newell. I appreciate it very much.
That's also something I always remembered that Harry did a lot was he went to incredible lengths to make sure to give lineage and credit wherever he could possibly find it, and especially in these days when, there's all of these, little skirmishes going on in the magic community of who invented what first, and it wasn't yours to sell and stuff like that. I always loved the fact that Harry always said, this guy published this and this guy published this, and I added this little bit and this one, and he always did that. That was another thing that I always remembered about him, that just, guy was a mensch.
May I ask a question of Rudy or someone who knew him? Unfortunately, I did not know him. I certainly knew his work like a lot of you.
Sure,
I picked up close-up card magic. Did Harry, now I grew up in Chicago. Did Harry have any commentary about the legendary Ed Marlo that you're aware of?
He said he watched him perform one time and, said he wasn't exactly a performer, but I don't, besides that, I mean, I don't know that he really had much to say. Mike Powers, do you know much about that? Because you're a Marlo fan, aren't you?
I don't know Eddie's, I don't know, excuse me, sorry. I don't know Eddie's perspective on Marlo really, but, Marlo, I don't think he did perform a lot, but when he did, he was pretty good. I mean, he had a very engaging performing style. He liked to perform for women. He was a very dapper dresser and very proper and very respectful of the fairer sex, old style kind of gentleman, you would say.
The reason I brought it up was when Ed passed, I knew Muriel as his wife. And I managed to secure one of Ed's books, and it was Ed's copy of Close-Up Card Magic. And in it are all of Marlowe's comments about Harry's tricks. And you can imagine some of the discourse and swear words that are in that particular tome.
I'd give anything to see that.
And I'm not wanting to say anything bad about Harry, but obviously Marlo had some very strong opinions about some of Harry's.
I posted an essay that was published some years ago. Some of us will know it. It's from John Rockabomber, called it Deconstructing Harry. And he basically he specifically goes through close-up card magic and shows where perhaps lineage wasn't as tight as you thought
Yeah.
with Harry. As far as it's interesting to read, no matter how you feel about this or that. It's interesting reading for those of us that.
Yeah, I haven't gone through all of his stuff extensively. I just remember, listening to him at 10 and saying where he learned stuff,
Sure.
and a lot of the videos that I found of him, and a lot of the writings, he just spent a bunch of time doing that. So, look, no one's going to be perfect, and people are
course
going to
not,
miss
yeah.
a lot of stuff. But I just know it was important. It was definitely important to him, because that was
And
part of
there's
our discussions.
The issue of bringing up Ed Marlo's name with crediting is probably not the best thing that you could
Oh, be nice.
Rudy?
Well, let's just say that lack of crediting is something that Mr. Marlo was sort of known for.
Yeah. Somebody was mentioning something. Was that Matt? Who was-
Gareth,
Oh, yes, Gareth.
just in the inside cover of Simon Aronson's Art Deco, there's a picture of Harry and Marlo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With a young-
that's right.
With a young Simon
right.
Aronson there.
Oh,
So they
very interesting. Very good.
must have
That's-
spent some time maybe
Nice.
with Aronson in Chicago. So he must have. I'm
Yeah,
sure
there
he
was
must have-
there was an interview with Harry on a Magic Newswire podcast some years ago where his relationship with Marlo came up, and Harry started saying that Ed's ethics were if you showed him something and he could deconstruct it himself, he felt safe in publishing it.
Yeah.
That's what Harry would say.
Ask Mr. Tinoco about that.
Well, speaking of that, Rudy, maybe you know this, because I never broached the subject with him, and I didn't know it until much later. But again, back in the mid 70s, on Saturdays, Harry was at Tannen's and Frank Garcia was there quite a lot. And I never saw them, like buddy arms around each other, but I've heard that there was, a bit of animosity between them. Did you know of anything about that? I just read that somewhere. I'm not trying to start a rumor. I'm just wondering if there was, because I personally never saw it. I was just curious if anybody knew about that.
Between who?
They would not go to the same sectors.
Yeah, the relationship was unfortunately very soured.
Oh.
And they were friends for a good while. In fact, I did an interview with Harry where he kind of explains why things fell apart the way they did, because they were really
Okay.
good friends. And then essentially he took an effect of Harry's and used it and didn't give him credit, and it got really ugly and
This
messy.
Frank
sadly.
Garcia you're talking about, Rudy?
Yeah, Frank Garcia, excuse me. Yeah,
I kind of on the inside track, if you have a second here on.
of course, please.
On the trick. Which trick was it? Was it the trick where there's a slit in the card, like a submarine card trick or something? What was it that he told that Frank? Oh, I think it was the linking card trick.
You know what? I think it was the linking card trick.
Yeah,
I think that's
well,
right.
there was something, I don't want to mess this story up or spread false information, but a friend of mine, let me get this right. A friend of, Bob Hirsch is a guy who's not known, but he was an illustrator, and he came up with a tweak on something that Harry that Harry thought he had invented or something like that. Anyway, he showed Frank Garcia this thing, and Frank started showing it around, and Harry thought Frank is ripping him off because Harry it was something. I'm mixing this up a little bit, but there was basically this thing between Harry and Frank, and I thought this is messed up. Harry doesn't know that Frank got this from Bob Hirsch in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So I I sent Harry a letter, no email at that time, and said, hey, Harry, just for the record, and Frank, you may have some crap with Frank, but this issue, I can tell you, he got it from this guy. I know people that were there when it was shared, and he's not, that's that thing. So at least we know that Frank was being honest about that. So I get a postcard back, the famous Harry Lorayne postcards, typewritten, and it says, thank you for resubscribing to Apocalypse. By the way, that trick is mine, capital MINE. I've got the postcard. I can
Wow.
scan that thing. It's around here somewhere.
Wow.
I still have it. Anyway, it was just one of those competitive people who are competitive like Harry And I don't know if Frank was so competitive. Marlo was very competitive, that's for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, it was pretty bad. In fact, I'm going to post here in just a little bit. I'll post the video. It was on one of my Real Magic magazine things, on a teaching an effect called Transcendental Transpo from Apocalypse, which is a really cool trick. And he's talking about how their relationship soured, and they never recovered from that, sadly. So, well, thanks for that insight, man.
Well, it was just one of those things where I knew the guy that showed Frank what Harry was accusing him of stealing. So he
Dang.
hadn't stolen it. He got it from another guy, but Harry didn't, it was one of those, yeah, don't tell me he's nice. He may have good reasons for having disagreements with Frank, but that shouldn't have been one of them.
Right.
Sure. And
Wasn't there also a big kerfuffle around Lazy Man's card trick? Harry claimed, I think Harry said he saw, was it Alcoran? He saw Alcoran do something.
Yeah.
And then, so he publishes it in Close-Up Card Magic. He says it's his because he took so many liberties changing Lazy Man's around.
Mm.
And then
The,
only to find out that Coran stole it from Marlo.
The Rocket Bomber essay I posted goes into that a little bit, Mike.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, one of the things Harry said he did, even in the creation of the classic collection, was to try to remedy some of that. At least that's what Harry told me. He said, look, I recognize maybe I didn't have all the information, and look, so my attempt to making good on that is the classic collection, and then giving credit where credit is due. So I think he understood that, and I think we all know that Harry could be a brat. I get put it nicely, but stubborn. But I think that was his attempt to remedy. And did he always do
One of a kind, no doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, Rudy,
Yes.
I wonder if it's harder to credit today or easier to credit today with the internet, if things fly around so quickly that we don't know, but we're able to research more. I sort of wonder about that. Back, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, before the internet, where did you look?
What a really good point that is, right? Because we're now in this digital age where information is just at our fingertips. Whenever you want to search something, you just ask Siri.
Well, man, that's like the Max Maven, I've got 400 books and I know everything in every single one of the books. So I may not know the piece of information, but I can go wind it back through my books. And that's what we have. I mean, we had encyclopedias, books, references, ask people, and that's all we had to go by. But now there's so much stuff where people will make just a small tweak to something and then claim it as their own. Or I've seen a number of creators, and they're bumping into each other because I do software. That's what pays the bills. And so there's coincidental independent invention. You come up with people on the other side of the world come up with exactly the same thing right around the same time, and then one sits on it for a year while the other releases it and says, oh no, but I had it first. And there's no good answer for it. You just kind of have to do the best you can with.
Mike Powers has written published a number of books. Mike, what's the process that you go through? It's got to be pretty challenging, right?
It is challenging, and you can really get wound up and spend 3 years digging down, like what's his name, the Canadian guy, dominatrix. Tyler Wilson has gotten deep in the weeds of the French book from 1842, has a picture, just
and it's entertaining when you read it, is the fun part.
Well, it's good to know. I think that's fair enough. In Reginald Scott's the witchcraft book. But Marlowe's premise, I think, is still honored today, and that is who publishes first is going to get the credit. Now, not aside from stealing, like, you showed me that, then I ran out and published it, and so it's mine. But then the guy says, wait a minute, I showed you that. Well, that's a different story. But the guy that sat on it, loses in Marlowe's world. And Marlo lived by that too, because I remember talking to him one time, and he's looking at something going, oh man, this guy, he's looking at somebody's book. Oh yeah, I had that idea, it's in my notes somewhere. And he goes, shame on me. And those are exactly his words. He goes, shame on me. I missed it. I should have published it. Yep. Yeah. Okay, done.
Wow.
He didn't go, hey, I had that in my notes of 1957. Wow. He just said, shame on me. I missed it. Move on.
Interesting.
And also with one quick pushback on Marlo the thief, and you know how he would just, you showed him something and he took it. I showed a trick at one of the Marlo tables, you know, Simon Dave, Steve Drawn, Randy
Right.
Wakeman, all those guys. And it really went over. It was like, pow, got applause. And I was really, you know, shaking, my hands are shaking. And, you know, I thought it was good, but then I got this like, that is good from those guys and went, okay, that's good. The
Yeah,
next day,
absolutely.
phone rings. Hey, Mike, it's Ed Marlo. Holy shit, Marlo's calling me up. Because you know that I've been thinking about that trick you showed me. Maybe we could put a manuscript out, because he had this mailing list that he would, you know, these private manuscripts. Come up to Chicago and have lunch and we'll talk it over. So I came up to Chicago. He'd already taken Polaroid photos, glued them to his handwritten stuff. Here's what I have that are some ideas on your idea. And at the end of the, I mean, I was like scared. I'm going, uh-oh, here we go. I'm going to be marginalized here. And well, I was a little worried because of this reputation. But what actually happened was Ed goes, he goes, so, you know, what, you write up your stuff and then you can put that in there. He says, you don't even need to put my name on it if you don't want to. And I'm going, what are you talking about? I mean, Marlo is going to what sells it. So he said, well, you know, just, you know, all right, that's fine. But he's not trying to edge me out. I mean, the point was he was not doing that at all. It wasn't like 2 weeks later, I find Marlo's got a manuscript where that trick shows up. It was like, let's work together. I'll put in my stuff and you do your stuff. And his stuff was absolutely different. He wasn't even infringing in my territory. So, you know, there's that. And I think that other than, you know,
now the bigger question inquiring minds want to know is, what trick of yours was this, Mike?
It's called The Impossible Travelers. It's in Top Secret Stuff. It's a really cool trick. It's kind of like McDonald's Aces meets Open Travelers.
Gotcha.
It is a cool trick. And I think I might have made a video of the one handling that I had. Involves a little bit, you know, when you look at yourself making a video, that's when you really find out what it looks like. And you go, oh, man, that side steal thing is just, I don't know. So, but there was an alternate way to do it that I thought was not quite, you know, if that had been perfect, that would have been the way to do it. But I kind of went to an alternate way. Anyway, maybe I'll go back around and see if I can tighten up the loose screws on that. It is a really cool trick, though.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Let me ask a question of Rudy and the group, because it'd be very interesting to me. If you were to talk about Harry's legacy and you were to highlight one trick that would say everything about Harry's approach to magic, that would demonstrate how much of a master he was, what trick would you do or perform?
Wow, that's a really great question. With so
Noel, I can tell you, I'm unconflicted with this question. To me, it was Harry's version of the Magic Square. And you know, Harry actually published a couple of different versions. His original easy one that was straight out of the Magic book, that's the one that I do. You know, he does it, you know, escalating urgency as you keep coming up with more and more solutions. I put a little bit of jokey Johnny Carson tea time theater, Art Fern attitude towards it to try and
what a surprise, Mike, that you would do that.
But you know, at the end of the day, Noel, it's just like Harry. Harry didn't need to add that extra character because Harry was that character. But you know, I look at the videos of him doing it, and man, I got to tell you, something that simple, that method, you know, it's absolute with all the great stuff that I love Harry doing.
I would say his where he remembers, and it was put out on a DVD, and I have a copy of it somewhere in my stack of DVDs. It was something volume 10. I will never forget that. It was volume 10 of the DVD, and it was the whole you know, remembering everybody in the audience after doing the whole magazine. Okay, you know, turn to a page 52. Okay, that one's got an ad for this and that, and he just starts ripping off the stuff in the magazine, and then he just starts going around the audience and not only saying what people's names were, but there was a little fun fact about each person. You know, you're married to this person, and you used to live here, but now you live here. And it was that type of involved memory work that, you know, to me, more than the volume of card stuff and everything else. And I think also the lay public, that's what they remember about him. So many of my friends, when I put something on Facebook, you know, the other day, all of my, you know, so many of my friends who were not in the magic world, they were all like, Mr. Memory, I remember seeing him do the memory stuff. And that's what I think he's, you know, I think that's probably one of the more prevalent memories of him.
Rudy.
Yeah, well, I've seen him do Magicians versus Gambler before me, and from a shuffled deck. So he was trying to show me how he gets into it, and even watching him do it, I'm like, well, gosh, you know, because he's talking and doing what to me is just difficult. Anyway, just to see Harry do that from a shuffled deck was awesome. I think there's a video of him doing it where he's just a sweaty mess. He said it was so hot in the room and he was sweating.
That's Card Sharpened for Gamblers.
Gambler. Sorry, I'm actually mixing those up. I believe that's the one that I'm referencing, actually. Well, both of those are really great effects. But
and
I think
that particular performance, you can see him setting up the deck because the camera's behind him.
Exactly. But I actually just asked him, Harry, can you do it really quick? You know, he shuffled the deck and he was just doing it. And his ability to do that, again, it's a testament to his gift of gab and how engaging he is while doing all this stuff, that, and the effect being devastating. It's just amazing to watch him get into it. And I love that about
remember also his, and I never really knew this until I started having lunch with him and he told me, I had very little idea of his learning difficulties as a child and the dyslexia and everything that he overcame. And, you know, so much of what he did was all brain power. Okay. And he had these learning difficulties and he left school at a young age and so on. And, you know, he didn't become the pickpocket or the sleight of hand guy. You know, so much of it was so cerebral with him, which was pretty freaking amazing.
I would just say mine happens to be his version of Out of This World. When I first saw that, I go, wow, that's just out of this universe.
Beautiful.
That was just incredible.
Yeah, but you know, I think a lot of magicians will say, gosh, it's overkill, constant, you know, but when Harry does it, again, it's, again, maybe I think only Harry can do it. And it, to me, I think it's incredibly entertaining and engaging. And you see it in the audience. It's amazing, but it's very heavy on the.
Well, it goes back to us talking about, and this is absolutely true. Harry could take even what read or felt like the most boring thing, and it's not.
Right.
So
very, very true.
I think, Rudy, I think the procedure in Out of This Universe, I used to do it and I never went, oh my God, there's all this procedure. I just said, this is proof of how random everything is. These guys take the deck and they deal it into 4 piles following no freaking pattern.
Right.
That's going to be remembered. I put those cards anywhere I wanted to. That alone makes it stand out uniquely in the world. And then they shuffle 2 of them together, either 2, then the whole thing together, all shuffled in their hands.
Yeah.
Dang,
and then
how can you beat that for
and I added the little tip from Dick Cavett that he had in Apocalypse where he says, when you're doing the shuffling, shuffle some of the packets face up. It's just, you know, it doesn't alter the original procedure at all, but Dick's whole idea was the point is the shuffling. So just do a couple of those shuffles face up, not all of them, but just, you know, to alter, you know, and this looks total. What the heck could this be?
You mean both packets face up?
Right.
Yes, not triumph. Okay. But they might notice that when the cards are riffling off that they're all black on the bottom and all red on the top. And that I would be afraid of. So I guess I'd have to see how that worked out. I'd be a little bit fearful of doing them face up.
Well, I remember when I read the little bit, it was in an ellipses in the red volume somewhere.
Okay.
And I thought the same thing. I'm like, I bet this would work for him. I'd love to see footage of it done. I never did. But
Yeah, you guys, yeah, that one, and then I forgot about Card Sharp. How could I forget that? That's one of my favorites. I was gonna say Apex Aces, but now I'm thinking Gambler, the Card Sharp and the Gambler
Yeah.
is the way to, is
yeah,
a better.
that's probably what I remember him most for. The one I probably do most often is Halo Aces Again,
Mhm.
which is that's the one without the key cards and the placing. That's just the ace cutting with the slip shuffle. That's Halo Aces Again.
Yeah. Oh, again, not the original one where you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, say stop and you're shuffling.
Yeah, that's called Halo Aces Again. It was mislabeled on his DVDs because Halo Aces is the one where you have the 4 key cards.
Right. Oh, okay.
What is the one
Yes.
where he's got that incredible display with all the
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
in Quantum Leaps. It's the Amazing Revelation display.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
it, yeah.
that's
That-
cool.
Yeah,
that-
that's beautiful.
wow.
Right in front of
In
me.
fact, it's
Beautiful.
on the back cover of the book. Actually, if you have the
Yeah.
original Quantum Leaps and turn the book over, the display is on the back of the
There you
book.
There you
There it
go.
is.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Buck twins eat your heart out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The original cardistry. Cool.
Yes, that is so good too. I forgot it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What's the one? I think it was it And Finally, the 4 fanciful powers, the one where you're doing it's the continued setup of Oracle. Four fanciful. It's either in And Finally or Jaw Droppers 2.
I don't know that one.
It's towards the beginning.
Huh. I don't know. There's
Um,
great ones, but
But
think-
it's yeah.
yeah.
Oh well, I'll find it.
Yeah. I have about maybe 15 minutes and I have to
Yeah.
unfortunately have to drop off, but
Do.
are there any other folks want to share a thought, a memory, a story, maybe your favorite effect of Harry's? You're welcome to just maybe share here if you let me know in the chat, I can bring you on, but
I'll mention one thing.
sure.
I remember a video that he put out, one of the very first videos I got, and there's a trick in there that wasn't his that I still do. And it was Rip It by Jack Shannon. It's a bill tear and no one does the thing where you literally borrow a bill, rip off the face, bang, and you restore it and you hand it back to the spectator.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And it's just all these other crazy things about, carrying it in a circle and all that McBride does and whatever. This one, I mean, you literally borrow a bill and you do a valley fold in it. You apparently pluck George Washington's face off of it and you go like this and you hand it back to them and they never see exactly how the thing works.
Wait, Newell, where's that, Newell?
It was in a very first video that I don't know the actual video, but on that was also that linking card where he went and he
If you have volume 4 of the Best Ever series, those original videos are on the end of that.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
fact,
I was flicking through Apocalypse yesterday, and I'm pretty sure I didn't read it, but I'm pretty sure remember kind of scan reading it. It's in.
Yeah.
I'll show you what's going on here because you borrow a bill like that, you fold it in half like this, and you fold it in half again like this. Oops, excuse me, I've got the wrong bill. Hold on just a second. Something else I've been doing. Okay, so here you go, a bill like this. You do a valley fold, you do that, and the thing. Okay, I'll use a crisp bill. Sorry about that. So you fold the bill in half like that. Then what you do, you fold it in half again, just like that. And now you're going to give George a facelift like this. And now that bill is totally restored and you can hand it out.
Nice. Really good. That's nice.
Yeah, it's really, and what it is what you do. You take a a bill, you fold it in half like this. You do a valley fold. You push in on this, like right there.
Can you lift
And
it
so
up into
now,
frame a little bit,
when you're
Newell?
tearing it on the word Washington, you're
Hey,
only
Newell.
tearing through a single layer of paper. That.
Mm,
Then to restore, you just do this, and they will never see. That's a very tiny little tear. You can hardly see it, and the whole thing.
Yeah,
you show
David
that?
Hyra was teaching something similar, and for now it works with U.S. currency, but it doesn't work, with like the plastic currency or anything
No,
outside.
I mean, this is
It's got to
definitely
be
a
the very
$1 bill.
fibrous. It's got to be the very fibrous bills, and it's got to be a pretty clean tear, because when you pull it and the fibers kind of re-interleave,
Yeah,
and
but
you
I mean,
like that.
okay, I
Yeah.
just tore this. I'm telling you, I've done this in
Oh yeah.
forever. That there, I can't even show you. That's the amount of tear that
Yep.
goes on there. That's it. And when you do this and you tell them you're going to give George the facelift, they're all looking up here. They never see the damn thing.
Yep.
So,
Can you show really quick? Can you show that the valley fold that you're doing there, Newell,
Sure.
and put it up into frame because they couldn't quite see what
yeah,
you're
I'm
doing.
sorry I'm laying down because, as you know, I'm sort of an invalid here. But you do this so it's top to bottom. Now, right here is your thumb goes like here.
Okay,
And
Gotcha.
now when you fold it,
gotcha.
this is only a single, see it like that? There's only like that.
Mhm.
There's only a single layer of paper when you tear the Washington. That's the principle.
Gotcha. That's good. Wow, that's cool. Really good, Newell. Thanks for sharing that.
And that was actually on it's Jack Channon's Rip It. That's the name of it.
Cool.
And I remember that because I have a 3-part bill routine where I tear it and I float the bill and I put my pen through it, all sorts of stuff like that.
Mhm.
And that's always been a part of it.
That's great. Well, thank you for showing us that. I appreciate it very much.
Can I jump in, not about Harry, but that Bill Terrier you were talking about, Jack Channon? He was at the Yogi Magic Mart in Baltimore, Jack Channon, and he did a lecture and he was selling stuff. He sold that trick for $5.
That's a
Back
lot of
then,
money
back
back
in the
then.
70s. Back in the
Mhm.
70s. He sold that trick, just a tear like that, for $5.
Okay, you can send your $5 to let's see.
Hey, that was in 1970 something, 80 something money. So
No,
now it could be-
just put up your Venmo QR code. We can just all
Yeah,
scan.
really. It's kind of like in the LA Times, there was this guy that got caught. I'll just leave you with this. And it says, last day to send your $5 to P.O. Box, blah, 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 blah. And the guy got $1,000. And some people like, but why am I sending this guy $5? But a lot of people sent this guy just $5 because it's the last day to send your $5 to me. And that was it. Just a total scam.
Awesome.
Rudy, thank you very much for putting this on. I do have to leave. And,
Thank you very much, Rudy. This was great.
My
and
pleasure.
I think it's always good when we all get together and we can honor somebody that we respected greatly. So take care, folks. It's been
All right,
fun.
thanks. Marv is going to share a little story. He said that he actually fooled Harry, and so I'd love for you to share. You can unmute your thing, and then we'll let's see what you got. You're highlighted, so can you unmute, Marv? There you go.
So used to being muted, didn't pay attention. I'll do it real quick. First off, I'd just like to say I'm glad we're celebrating a life well lived rather than being sad, in my opinion. I mean, the guy was a giant, both in the entertainment world and in the card world. So, and thanks to the forum, he had a place to continue to enjoy all of that. So that's thanks to you, Rudy. Anyway, the first time that Harry went to Fechter's, I was lucky enough to be there. He was a dynamo. I mean, it was incredible. I never met him. And all of a sudden, here's this bulldozer coming through, sharing everything. No matter what we said from his books, he could do it. I mean, he'd, I can remember 5 tricks. He remembered 5,000. So it was close. But I'd been playing around with air pressure on cards, and I was doing a thing where I could lift about a half of the deck with my flat hand at the time. I can't do it now. And I was doing it for somebody, and Harry could see out the corner of his eye. He was kind of noticing it while he was working for somebody. So then I made sure that later, back in those days, the early Fectors at the Forks, we'd be upstairs in the attic. So it was a big open room. So every time that Harry'd be around, I'd make sure I was someplace and I'd do it for somebody. And I'd see his eyes drifting over. Finally, he had to come over and ask me how I was doing the damn trick. And I showed him. It wasn't a big deal. And we didn't even get into details of what I was doing with it. But he wrote it up as sticky cards in one of the apocalypses.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but the cool part was that in the what was the thing to put it afterwards or
Afterthoughts.
afterthoughts at the end, right after he came back from Fectors, he actually put in print, Marv Long took me in. I've been proud of that ever since. It's 1 for me, 5,000 for Harry, but
There
it's
you
worth
go.
it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Marv, I tried doing that thing. I couldn't get it to freaking work, man. So
It doesn't work well for me anymore because my hand texture has changed. I'm old and my hands are dry and whatever. Back then I was young and moist. I could do a half a deck back then. But the good news is that inspired Matthew Bish, although he doesn't say so anymore, but he did in his original lecture notes to do a thing with a pencil and I think wax.
yes, I remember
And
that.
that inspired whoever
Plunger?
came up with Tiny Plunger.
Yeah.
So I had the start anyway.
Wow, look at that. Well, that's interesting history. I didn't realize that. I think I'd messaged you one time, Marv, when I had first learned and asked. I think I might have asked you somewhere, like, how the heck I can't get it to work. So sounds great though. I would have loved to see that back in the day.
I'll see if I can recreate it one of these days.
Yeah, because then we can put it on Apocalypse and you can teach it on the Apocalypse Now series. That would be awesome. Come on.
Harry was just a great guy. Everybody that I've gotten messages from in the last day or two that I know magic, because I sent out a thing about Harry passing, and everybody came back and had a Harry sharing story. Wherever they were, Harry took time to show them things and share with them. And I heard that I have a half a dozen emails in the last day, and they all said the same thing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Quite a legacy.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Marv. I appreciate it very much. What's that? Who's that?
I was just saying that's cool. That's a cool story.
Thanks. I would kind of wrap things up here, but Harry, I know sometimes he caught a bad rap. People say he's egotistical and all these things, and I think he would admit that he could be rough sometimes. It didn't always read well, especially when you're seeing it at a forum. But one thing that I've come to know about Harry is he was one of the sweetest guys you would ever know. You wouldn't know that, some folks, and again, from what you might read at a forum, but just a genuinely sweet, caring guy. There's a time, I think I left it in one of the interviews that I had with him, where we're talking and then the phone rings and he goes, "Hold on, Rudy, real quick." And he picks up the phone and it's Bobby, and the loving way that the affection that he had for his family just came through. He wasn't afraid to say, "Hi, I love you, hon." And just really, I think he had a really big heart, and I know him only as being sweet and kind. And yeah, he could be a brat sometimes, but he
can we all.
left an indelible mark on my life. I really just love him, and I will miss him very much, as I know many of you will too. But he will live on in all these many books that he wrote. And so thanks again for joining me, and I appreciate many of you sent some condolences my way, and I hope you'll continue to do that. Over to Elizabeth and Bobby and Vivi. They're really, really struggling. Keep them in your prayers and thoughts. But thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a good time, learned maybe a couple of things. I sure did. And then we'll have another gathering like this very soon, one of our Saturday sessions. So for those, maybe I think most of you are already members of the forum, but for those of you who aren't, go over to the Magicians forum.com. Join us and enter into some of the conversations. A lot of good stuff happening there. All right, y'all, have a great Easter weekend, and I will see you all next time.